Okay, we're up to the third reading of Parshas Korach, chapter 16, verse 20. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, so here we're back to God speaking to Moses and Aaron and not just to Moses. Now, I don't think there's any verses where God speaks directly just to Aaron. I don't, in the whole Chumash, I don't believe so. I think they're either paired together, which doesn't happen all the time, or God speaks to Moses and then Moses conveys the message to the children of Israel. But here it's the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron saying, disassociate yourself from this congregation and I will consume them in an instant. They fell on their face and said, oh God, the Lord of the spirits of all flesh, if one man sins, shall you be angry with the whole congregation? That's a really good argument. That's a really good argument that they're making. Why are you judging the entire congregation for sins of, one guy, Korach, and the other two guys, and the 250 people? I mean, there's 3 million people. And I have this other question: Is the Indian the din of death was already on Korach because he's over 20, already on those other two guys whose names are Dotam and Avinom, Aminadav. And those 250 people were presumably all over 20 years old. So the judgment of death was already on them. So they had nothing to lose by going against Moses. Just want to put that out there. Okay, the Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to the congregation saying, withdraw from the dwelling of Korach, Dotan, and Aviram. Separate yourself from them. This is a very, very, very important thing in Judaism. We actually pray about this. We actually ask God to help us with this. We don't want to just be associated with just anybody. We want to be around the good people, whatever that means, whatever we decide as a society is good, which the Torah really helps us with that. But look, man, we don't want to be in a bad neighborhood. We don't want bad neighbors. We don't want to be around people who are criminals, who are not living a similar lifestyle. We want to be around people who live a similar lifestyle as us, who have the same morals as us. This is something we actually ask for every day in our Siddur. So, okay. Moses arose and went to Dotham and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. He spoke to the congregation, saying, please get away from the tents of these wicked men and do not touch anything of theirs, lest you perish because of all their sins. Don't even touch their stuff. So they withdrew from around the dwelling of Korach, Dotan, and Abiram, and Dotan and Abiram went out standing upright at the entrance of their tents, together with their wives, their children, and their infants. Moses said, with this shall you know that the Lord sent me to do all these deeds, for I did not devise this myself. Hey man, what's about to come? What's about to come? This is not on me. I didn't come up with this. This is your fault. You brought this upon yourself, and this is going to be God's doing. So whatever's going to happen, you have to accept the consequences. And it's your own fault, is what Moses is saying. If these men die, as all men die, the fate of all men will be visited upon them, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a creation, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them with all of that is theirs, and they descend alive into the grave, you shall know that these men have provoked the Lord. So he's basically saying what's going to happen, that there's going to be this special mouth that's going to, in the earth, that's going to swallow these people up. And this is something that we read about in Pirkei Avot. This is one of the special creations that was actually created at the beginning of time. As soon as he finished speaking all these words, the earth beneath them split open against Dotham and Aviram and their wives and Korach and their children. The earth beneath them opened its mouth and swallowed them in their houses, and all the men, now here it says all the men, who were Korach and all their property. And they and all they possessed descended alive into the grave. The earth covered them up, and they were lost to the assembly. All Israel who were around them fled from their cries, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up too. And a fire came forth from the Lord, and it consumed the 250 men who had offered up the incense. So there was a special opening in the earth that swallowed up the 3 main leaders, and then a fire consumed the 250 men. And everybody's panicking. Chapter 17, verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Now, see, Aaron's not here. So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, say to Eleazar, the son of Aaron the Cohen, that he should pick up the censers from the burned area, but throw the fire away, because they have become sanctified. So these pans, or these special pots that were used, are now kadosh. The censers of those who sinned, even the ones that are the sinners, these special pans that held the fire and the incense, even the ones who were just died, these are kadosh. The censers of those who sinned at the cost of their lives, and you shall make them into flattened out plates as an overlay for the altar. Oh my goodness. So look, we don't just throw things away in Judaism. Anything could be made kadosh. Even something that was used by people who were trying to overthrow the government of Moses, the leadership of Moses. We're going to make this as plates, as an overlay for the altar. For they brought them before the Lord, and therefore they became sanctified. And they shall be a reminder for the children of Israel. So anything could be used, basically. Look, man, but not of Korach, Dotam, and Aviram. Those things, even their clothes, you weren't supposed to touch. But if there's 250 people, their pans we can use. They're kodosh. They're holy. We have a lot to learn here. So Eleazar the Cohen took the copper censers which the fire victims had brought, and they hammered them out as an overlay for the altar, as a reminder for the children of Israel, so that no outsider who is not the seed of Aaron shall approach to burn incense before the Lord, so not to be like Korach and his company, as the Lord spoke regarding him through the hand of Moses. Now, we had other warnings before, by the way. The following day, the congregation of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron and said, you have killed the people of the Lord. And the people recovered from their panic, and they're still like mad at Moses and Aaron, which they saw Hashem descend and came up. Hashem's the one who came up with this. But they're still mad at Moses and Aaron. You have killed the people of the Lord. And it came to pass while the congregation were assembled against Moses and Aaron that they turned to the tent of meeting, and behold, the cloud had covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. Again, the glory of the Lord appeared. Even though the people were saw all this, and despite the fact that they just saw 250 people die and 3 people get swallowed up by a special hole in the earth, they have the audacity to still be complaining. And now, even with all this, the Lord still appears to the entire congregation. Moses and Aaron came to the front of the tent of the meeting. These verses, this parsha, these verses they're teaching us so much about what Judaism really believes and what God really is. And in 2,000 years, and the teachings that we teach are so separated from this, at least the teachings that I've learned. Sometimes, we read the Torah and we read this every year. We go through the verses and we're not connecting to them. We're really not connecting to the verses as a people, as an Am.